Gentlemen, I have returned, and today we are going to be talking about a very special Space Marine chapter. Everybody's favorite demon hunters, the boys in silver, the Grey Knights. These are the main chamber militant of the Ordo Malleus, which is just a fancy way of saying they work for the Inquisition to kill demons. Now one might wonder, why do we need a special breed of Space Marine to kill demons? After all, in the Space Marine 1 game, you kill bloodletters all the time. That is something far stronger than a Grey Knight. That is called being a named Ultramarine. For everyone else though, to try and kill a demon in 40k is like trying to remove the stank from a hunk of shit. On paper it can be done, but most of the time the best you can do is put some Febreze on it, sweep it under the rug, and let whoever steps on it later deal with the mess. What this lovely image that I've painted is trying to get across is that you can't kill a demon. I mean, you can, there is true death, but good luck with that one. What you can do is you can banish the demon back to the warp, making it effectively no longer your problem. But that demon will return, usually in 1,000 years, give or take, and now a new generation of people is going to have to deal with it. Usually they deal with it by banishing the demon again, and rinse and repeat, and you see how in the last 10,000 years, pretty much no progress has actually been made in the battle against chaos. And in this endless cycle, the Grey Knights are the Febreze. All Grey Knights are psychers. Demons are made of the warp. The most effective way to fight a demon is to wield their own power against them. The issue with that strategy is the more in tune with the warp an individual is, the easier it is for the warp and in turn demons to enter their mind and corrupt them. So using psychers against demons is a gamble that usually backfires unless they're a named character or a Grey Knight. The Grey Knights are an old chapter that was founded very near the beginning of the Imperium. When the Horus Heresy started, it wasn't just the fact that Horus and some Space Marines were traitor. If that's all it was, you just put down the rebellion and keep it moving. That's nothing new for the Imperium. The real cucumber of this pickle is that the Pandora's box known as Chaos is now loose in the galaxy. And now it is growing and spreading its corruption with no way of stopping it. So even after Horus is put down, Chaos will now be a perpetual crisis. So while the heresy is happening, the Emperor sees his own sons and Space Marines turn on him. He sees half the Imperium destroying the other half, all while chaos is running rampant. The Emperor looked at his advisors, he looked at his boy Constantine, his buddy Malcador, and said, "Gentlemen, we are fucked." He then turned to his oldest friend and said, "Malcador, go find a way to unfuck us." Malcador would then go out and handpick 12 people, and that would become the foundation for the Inquisition and the Grey Knights. Malcador would send 8 of the 12 who were Space Marines to Saturn's largest moon of Titan, right here in the solar system. On Titan, the original 8 chosen Space Marines would arrive at their new fortress monastery along with a bunch of fresh recruits. Malcador would appoint Janus as the first Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights chapter. Janus is a story for another day, but what's important is that he was given a fortress monastery, a bunch of recruits, and a large stock of gene seed derived from the Emperor instead of a Primarch. Malcador would then tell him to work his magic, and then Malcador would throw Titan into the warp. Now, the planet had Geller fields, but that doesn't really make me feel better. Geller fields can sometimes be a little shoddy, so having to project a field the size of a moon and have it stay in the warp for years... Put it this way, if that Geller field so much as blinks, that moon and everyone on it is going to be having a very bad day. But the field did hold, and the Grey Knights were in there for a long time. In real space, it was like 7 years. The perception of time in real space, though, is a lot like Monopoly money in the warp. It's not worth shit. How long they were in there on their end, I don't know. It was long enough that when Titan did return to real space, there were no longer 8 Space Marines, there were now 1,000. But these weren't just any Space Marines. They were 1,000 Psychers who received the most intense training of any other chapter, with their mind, body, and souls conditioned to fight demons, and also wield the warp in their presence. The Grey Knights showed up in the middle of the second founding, when the legions were broken into chapters, also 1,000 Marines in size, so isn't that convenient? The Inquisition would quietly integrate them as the 666th chapter, a chapter that would go wherever chaos was strongest and defeat the demonic champions of the Dark Gods. And sometime during the War of the Beast, the 2 branches of the Inquisition formed, the Ordo Xenos and the Ordo Malleus, alien hunters and demon hunters, with Deathwatch serving the Ordo Xenos and the Grey Knights serving the Ordo Malleus. As for how the Grey Knights are organized, all the way down at the bottom you have recruits. The Grey Knights probably have the hardest time finding recruits out of any chapter. First and foremost, they have to be genetically compatible with the gene seed and the Space Marine augmentations. That alone already rules out a lot of people, but every Space Marine chapter has that problem. Once they find this candidate who is genetically compatible, that candidate also has to be an exceptionally powerful psyker, or at least have the potential to be one. So that's another criteria that right there disqualifies 99.9% of people. Finally, once they have this genetically compatible, exceptionally powerful psyker, this child also has to have exceptional mental fortitude to be able to handle the training. You multiply all those percentages together, and you can see why there are 1 million Space Marines, but only 1,000 Grey Knights. Just the rarity of a candidate is so high, and they have such a high failure rate, that the only way they can have a steady stream is by recruiting from anywhere in the Imperium's million worlds, instead of just on one world like most chapters do. They take the recruits to the middle of nowhere on Titan, and then tell them to walk to the Fortress Monastery as they freeze to death on this moon. Once they arrive, they strip them of their name, give them a number, put a collar on their neck, and tell them to walk to the other side of the moon. On their way out, they get reminded that if they use their psychic powers, the collar is going to blow their head off. They do all that, throw in some more trials, some more mental and physical and spiritual torment, all that fun stuff. If they survive all that, they become neophytes. Now, I'm probably wrong on this, but to the best of my knowledge, the neophyte speed runs the augmentations, and as soon as possible they are given Aegis power armor. They are then immediately thrown into the fray, and the idea is that they have already proven themselves to this point, so they skip the whole Scout Marine phase. This initiate will be assigned to Justicar and continue with their training and trials, and once they finish the 666 trials, they are now ready to be a Grey Knight Terminator. The reason they get Terminator so fast is because Grey Knights have a lot of Terminator armor. While a standard chapter would be lucky if their first company had a full stock of 100 suits, the Grey Knights have enough suits to damn near give one to everybody. Their Aegis armor not only has a badass helmet, but also a wrist-mounted bolter and runes and wards covering the armor to help defend against demons. Another way they protect themselves against demons is by wiping their memory and being assigned a new name. This makes it harder for warp entities to mess with their head. You can't use their old insecurities and doubts against them if they don't even remember what they are. As for the new name, names have power in 40k, especially when it comes to the warp. So much so that if you know a demon's true name, you got them by the balls. Just saying their name, it weakens even the most powerful greater demons, making them vulnerable to being banished. Now, the name you hear demons give you, that's not their actual name. Only the Chaos Gods know their name. The Grey Knights know some of the names, but, you know, there's a lot of demons. Anyways, banish enough demons, and they become a Justicar, which is basically just the equivalent of a Space Marine Sergeant. Higher up on the totem pole, you have the Brother Captain, and up again, you have the Grand Master. There are 8 Grand Masters, and they symbolize the original 8 Marines who created the Grey Knights, each one leading one of the 8 brotherhoods that make up the Grey Knights, similar to companies of a chapter. Leading them all is the Supreme Grand Master, elected by the Grand Masters. As the title would suggest, they are the Supreme Commander of the Grey Knights, the same way a Chapter Master would be. There are other ranks like Paladin, High Paladin, and Purifier, but I think you get the idea. That's how they organize themselves. How they conduct themselves is very Inquisition-like. Grey Knights exist to stop demons. Technically, no one in the Imperium is supposed to know about chaos or demons, as the Emperor wanted nobody to know that they existed, as just having knowledge of their existence is dangerous as it opens up a potential line of contact. This carries over to the Grey Knights. If people know the Grey Knights exist and what they do, they also know about chaos and demons. What all this means is that when Grey Knights arrive and stop a demon horde, anyone who saw the demons or the Grey Knights, they are now a liability and something has to be done. If it's just a regular human, they're probably catching a bullet with their head. If it's a Sister of Battle, that's a different story. If it's another Space Marine, they will sometimes try to mind wipe them or make them promise to be quiet. This approach, when it comes to dealing with other Marines, has had mixed results. In the first war for Armageddon, there was a bit of a demon problem. The Space Wolves and the Steel Legion of Armageddon were on the front line. The Grey Knights and the Inquisitors showed up to help. Once the battle was over, the Inquisition wanted all the people killed. The Space Wolves took issue with this, and Logan Grimnar shared that discontent with the Inquisition. The Inquisition didn't care, so the Space Wolves showed them why they should care, and that's how the Months of Shame happened. It was a small civil war between Astartes and the Inquisition, and the Grey Knights would get their shit kicked in, because Space Wolves are insane, and they love killing them some psychers. Then Bjorn would tell them to relax, but that's also a story for another day. There are other things to discuss with the Grey Knights, some of their other work, Caldor Drago, the ugly-ass Dread Knight, but that's all I got for today. I just wanted to talk a bit about the formation and the role that they have in the Imperium. Let me know what you think of the Grey Knights. I know some people hate them, others think they're like God's gift to Earth. If there's anything in general you want to tell me, you can leave a comment. I read all of them. If you liked this video, I would appreciate a like. If you disliked it, let me know by leaving a dislike. If you want to hear more from me in the future, you can subscribe. Until then, fellas,